Hi, welcome. This is Nothing But Fun with Emily Trotter. I'm Emily Trotter. I added a with, and I didn't need to. I'm glad you're here. We've been talking about women this past, early fall, mid fall. I guess we're fall now, and it was still hot when I first started talking about it. So, but now we're actually cold today. So, yeah. So we've talked about women and I've got, and then now you've heard from my pastor and my friend, the Reverend Dr. Shane Green, where we're talking about grief, just because it's kind of the season for that. There's sometimes you have to hold joy and grief together, and it's difficult. And this is the time of year where it's really magnified a lot, because you're just bombarded with family time, and whether you have it or not, it's on TV, it's on your shows, it's everything is about family, all the ads and whatnot. But so it's magnified at this time of year, and you can grieve for numerous reasons. It's not just the loss, as in a death of a loved one or a friend. It can be for many reasons. So I wanted to have Shane come, and because I think he talks about it so very well. But so I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I will direct you to Shane because I am by no means an expert. So speaking of me not being an expert, let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. It's parenting. Because I was thinking about women and the roles that we have, and not all women are mothers, but but here we are. And I've been a mother for 21 years. My oldest turned 21 in November. I'm still not over that, and I think I've ignored it. I think I'm ignoring it because I have always done, as dumb as they may be, I have always done some sort of post on social media for the boys' birthdays. Bo didn't mind that I didn't do one, but I didn't do it. And I think it's because I'm in denial that I have a 21-year-old child because I am not old enough to have that. Okay. Um, so anyway, so yes, I've been a mother for 21 years. I have 4 sons. I cannot tell you anything about parenting girls. I don't know about that. And I don't know that I know anything about parenting boys. Um, but it just feels like it just feels like our children are, I don't want to say a weak spot. Um, but it is almost a weak spot. It's where we often feel like we're not doing it right, like we're we're just completely screwing up. It's overwhelming, it's exhausting, and all the things. And I think that you have to learn how to speak up for your child and for yourself, and to be okay with how you're doing it, if you're doing your best. Now, if the government and well, I can't even say that because I don't know if that's accurate. But if you are involved in, not feeding your child or not taking care of them, then okay, you probably are a terrible parent. But if you're giving it all you got and doing just the best you can do, isn't that, what more can you ask for? Um, but because granted, not everyone has a good parent. So, and because of that, so that's just been in my face. And so I really was thinking about it because there's a verse in Psalm 127. It's well, there's 3 verses. Um, so Psalm 127 verses 3, 4, and 5, and it says, "Behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. How blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They shall not be ashamed when they speak with their enemies in the gate." And I've heard that over and over again, and I had to really look at it and be like, okay, so we're blessed with these children. They're a gift. That's in and of itself is a beautiful thing. And like the fruit of the womb is a reward. And the womb, the word used here is about, um it's like the seat of your inmost being, of where your faith and your spirituality, a lot of that is in that place, um, or what the word used to talk about it. That's kind of the definition, or the attributes of it. If you, because the ancient languages are so much better than English, because there are just nuances to them that we don't get when we say womb. That's where it's where you grow a baby. Right? That's all you think of. But when you look into these words, it's just really, really beautiful. So that this very private and quiet spot, and it's the reward because of what it brings forth, and it brings forth life and of all these things. Now, so you look at this, and I'm like, okay, like arrows in the hand of the warrior. Okay, well, that means we're shooting them off. We're sending them out into the world, and we have to prepare them, and we have to teach them, and they're our little messengers, and we're supposed to be, Solomon wrote this psalm, and Solomon's telling us, we're shooting the goodness and, morality into the world, right? Well, I don't think that's what this means at all. Because these are, children are a gift. And it's a gift in the sense of when it says that this gift, because he gives to his, because the verse previous says, for he gives to his beloved even in his sleep. So it's talking about what he gives and being prosperous, and having children is one of these ways that you can be prosperous, is being able to have many. And it says, and how blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. I've got four, my quiver's pretty full. um that's we got a lot. We got a lot. Okay, but it'll change your mindset when you look at it as they are a gift of God's possession. They were his. He gave them to you as a reward for faithfulness, as a reward for the labor of that you've got. And that really kind of changed. I was like, well, this isn't anything at all about shooting them out into the world. Although it says, and then the fruit, when it says like arrows in the hand of a warrior, the word that they use for hand is an open hand. Oh, because we want to hold on to them. But when we're shooting them, you're letting go with an open hand. Right? Then Proverbs, which is also by Solomon for the most part, we believe. In Proverbs 1, verse 8, it says, hear, my son, your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Indeed, they are a graceful wreath to your head and ornaments about your neck. And this is talking about like a moral protection. They're giving you the tools that you need and giving you sound advice. Remember, we talked about the Proverbs 31 woman. Solomon, when he was writing it, is like giving advice to his son about the kind of woman that he should be looking for. And that it should be a godly woman. That this fear of the Lord is the number one quality they need to be looking for, right? And so Proverbs, this is Solomon saying, here's what you should be looking for, son. And then we've heard this a million times. So Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Train up a child. Tell them how they're supposed to do. Tell them what they're supposed to do. Give them the moral, the right things. Give them the tools that they need to live a righteous and a holy life, right? Help them make good decisions. Set them up. And I think the problem that we have now, number one, is we want to do everything for our kids. Like, I can tell an enormous difference in Bo is 21, Mac is 12. Mac Trotter is the baby of the family. And the boys have been saying this for years. They've been saying it for years. I'm like, oh, hush, just hush. When y'all were 12, well, no, no, okay, you're right. They do things earlier. I mean, I have a hard time. This is so stupid. I hate to even admit it. I mean, he's 12. He's in the 6th grade. He is bigger than some adults. He's almost taller than me. I mean, he's gaining on me, okay? But I am I worry about him taking the trash to the road. I worry about him taking it down and getting run over by a car because we live on kind of a busy road and just someone's not going to pay attention. Do I worry about the others? Well, sure. I mean, I don't want them to get hit by a car, but I also assume that the three of them would get out of the way. And why I think that Mac has to be protected from the cars that drive by our house while he's taking down the trash, I don't know. I don't know. He's spoiled. He's the baby. Am I tired, or Jim and I tired a little bit? Probably. So we're just like, oh, we'll do it for you. Just sit down, be quiet. He has I mean, I don't know that he knows our address. I mean, things like that, right? And we do this. We want to keep them. We want to protect them. We want to hold them. We want to be the helicopter parents that hover and do everything. And really, in all honesty, we're doing a disservice. I just saw something that a lot of brands are like older brands that have been around a long time, are rebranding and getting new logos because some of them have fonts that the younger generations can't read because they're not in cursive, or because they are in cursive and they can't read cursive because they've never been taught it. So instead of teaching our children cursive, we're just going to go through and change everything to a bland block print. It just really struck me as, what are we doing? Why are we catering to them and not bringing them up, right? We're not training them up. And the other part of that is they're going to learn you can't parent all the time in a way of do as I say, not as I do. Especially where this moral protection is that Solomon is speaking of. You can't, now, sure, if you have gone through things and you have learned from your own mistakes and you say, hey, here's my advice in this situation. You shouldn't do this. Trust me, I know, because I've done it a different way and it's been horrible and I had to suffer consequences of those actions. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be a, learning from your mistakes and kind of steering them in a better direction, right? That's not what this is about. You have to live in a way that so they'll see you living in a right way, in a moral way, in a righteous way. You can't tell them to go to church if you don't go yourself. You can't tell them to be pure if you're not pure. You can't you can't tell them all these things. You can't tell them about the sins when you're doing the same ones. And so really it becomes a question of your own righteousness. Right? And the older I get and the more that I think about things, it all kind of comes back to, well, what is what does this say about me and my faith? I have an issue with this, or I have anger about this, or, well, if you sit and look at anything wrong long enough, you're going to get back to you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that could be about anything. It could be about anything. And we can't neglect these gifts that we've been given. we can't neglect the opportunity that we have to really pour into these kids. And this goes for if you're a teacher, if you're a coach of some sort, if you're an aunt, if you have the opportunity to pour in righteousness and morality to a child, do it. Do it. In the New Testament, when Paul is writing to all the churches, several times it mentions, like in 1 Timothy 3:4, it says, he, referring to an overseer of the church, must be one who manages his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. In Titus 1:6, it says, if any man be above reproach, the husband of one wife, having children who believe, not accused of dissipation or rebellion. The same can be said in Colossians. All these letters that Paul is writing, they all are saying, they all talk about a man's, and this was like when setting up the churches, and I'm going to get to Colossians in a minute. Setting up the churches and looking for leadership, looking for elders, who's going to do what. The way that he's in all of these books, he's like, look, you got to look at a man and look at his home life. See what he's like behind closed doors. What kind of relationship does he have with his wife, with his children, with his, extended family, with his employees? What kind of man is he? What kind of relationships does he have there? Do they run amok? Or do all of his employees hate his guts? Do his children hate him? I think you can tell a lot about somebody in their relationships with the people that are closest to them, right? So in Colossians, it says, this gets into this is family relations. Wives, be subject to your husband as is fitting in the Lord. Don't turn me off. Just wait, I'm going to get back to this, okay? Husbands, love your wives and do not be embittered against them. Children, be obedient to your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord. Fathers, do not exasperate your children, that they may not lose heart. So that gives us all a little bit of instruction here. And Ephesians 6:4 says, do not grieve your children. So yes, we have to do these things. We have these kids. There are gifts. Yeah. The Lord gave them to us. We have to raise them up. We have to train them in the way that they're supposed to go. We have to show them the straight and narrow. We have to be living a righteous life ourselves. So, okay, but you can't exasperate your children. You cannot grieve them. And sometimes kids are kids, and they're going to do what you just, at some point you say, I've done the best that I can. I'm going to continue doing the best that I can, but my child is naughty. That doesn't mean they're going to be perfect if you do this, right? It's such a slippery slope here. But here's the thing, and this goes for the part about the wives being subject to your husbands. So the word subject here, or in what translation is this? I'm in a new Bible, and it takes me a minute to get my sea legs with it. This is the New American Standard Bible. And in 1 Timothy, it says under control, okay? So that under control means subject. So at Bible Hub, the word for under control is hupotasso, okay? And it means to arrange under or to subject, refers to the act or state of being in submission or subjection. It implies a voluntary yielding or arranging oneself under the authority or leadership or another. In the New Testament, it often denotes a spiritual or relational submission, such as the believer's submission to God or the orderly structures within their church and their family. And this is what I thought was so interesting. In the Greco-Roman world, the concept of submission was integral to societal structures, including family, military, and civic life. The idea of submission was not seen as demeaning, but as a necessary component of order and harmony. In the early Christian context, submission was redefined through the lens of Christ example, emphasizing humility, love, and mutual respect. So when you look at it in the context of what submission means here, that's fascinating to me that in that time you didn't look as submission as something that was demeaning or rude or condescending. It was just an orderly way. You can't have you can't have too many chiefs. You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Otherwise it gets a little muddled and who knows who's doing what, right? And then when you look at it as Christ, I mean Jesus came and submitted. He did everything in submission to God, all the way to the cross. He submitted even to death. And that puts the whole "but did you die" thing into some perspective, right? Because I I might just ask the boys to again the trash or the dishwasher, and it's like you're asking them to cut off an arm here. That you really could say, okay, or am I asking you to die? Am I asking you to lay your life down? Is this what it is? This is going to take you 2 minutes, and I need some help here, right? I'm not the only one that makes the trash in this household, okay? So you can't. So when you look at submission through the lens of Jesus, you go, oh, well, how hard is this? Kids, no, you didn't die. For Pete's sake, they're your parents. They love you. What is it? I mean, the harder they are, I mean, the more rules you have, the more way that it can be said like, it, children that have very lax parents, the majority of which will come and will say, I wish that I had some parameters around my life. As adults, they'll look back and say, it probably would have been good if I had had some rules to follow. Right? So it's not nitpicky. It's not being hard. It's not all of that. It's just setting some parameters and setting some boundaries. And parents, we can go a little too far in this vein. So at the other, right after the under control, it says with all dignity. Well, what does that mean? Well, this means honor, gravity, seriousness conveys a sense of dignity, seriousness, and reverence. It is used to describe a quality of character that is worthy of respect and honor. In the New Testament, it often refers to the demeanor and conduct expected of believers, particularly those in leadership positions, emphasizing a life that reflects the gravity and respectability befitting a follower of Christ. And this gets back into the do not grieve your children. Do not exasperate them. Because it says in Colossians, it says if you exasperate them, they may lose heart. They may go, this is too hard. I can't follow this. I can't meet all your standards here. But again, it all comes back to what's your own life like? If your own life is full to the brim, running over, bubbling up with gratefulness, with faithfulness, with joy, with the fruit of the Spirit, with the evidence of the Holy Spirit living in you, if your life is bubbling up with all of that, you're not going to have a problem in your relationships. Even to the point of, I've done the best I can. This teenager, I can't be with them all the time. At some point, at this point in their life, they have to be growing up. While they're with you, they're supposed to be learning responsibility and how to behave in the world, how to interact with people. And their first example is you. Who are you pointing them to? Who are you modeling yourself after? This may seem like it's not any help. I can't give you any advice on how to potty train a child. I hated every minute of it 4 times. It was awful. But a friend of mine the other day was saying something like her child had been to a dance. And, it's hard with, as moms of boys, it's hard to, and girl mamas don't get upset about this. It's hard to say, oh, look, this little date has got on this teeny tiny little dress. Oh my goodness. Oh, baby, please be good. Another mom told me one time that she always reminded that God made that child, that she is a child of God, and he should respect her and look at her the same way, right? I have said that to my children. But Bo, being 21, being just turned 21, remember, he has a friend, because he's off at school again. He has a friend that has been trying to set him up with people, and one night it was just like a revolving door of girls being like, hey, and he's like, oh, this is awful. And at one point he was like, he told me, bless his heart, he tells his mother too much. He said, Mom, I looked at these girls and what they had on. I thought I could take you home to my mother. And I said, oh, baby, that's so sweet. But you need to have a little bit of grace. And that doesn't necessarily, you can't draw conclusions. Okay. Let's, give them some grace, and they may be really nice girls. Okay. But I told that to my friend who was concerned about this dress. I was like, look, just keep telling them what modesty looks like. Keep telling them that these young ladies are children of God too, that the Lord created them. And so they got to remember that. They got to look at them first as a child of God. And I'm here to tell you it kind of works, guys. Now, if anybody hears this and give Bo Trotter a hard time, don't, because bless his heart. I've been praying for a young lady for 21 years for this child. One day the Lord's going to bring her, okay? But you have to do things like that. You keep telling them. You get yourself right. You get yourself right with the Lord. You hold those kids with an open hand to release those arrows into the world. And just sit back and have faith. Harder. It's hard. It's harder. It's easier said than done. Right? Because not only does Jesus love you, Jesus loves your kids.